Well, welcome to the Alphagenix podcast, where every week we speak to incredible guests from the field of health and well-being and men's health. And I'm delighted to welcome today's guest, Gav Gillibrand.
Ross, thanks for having me, mate. Looking forward to speaking to you. I think we've got a lot in common, and happy to be here and hopefully impart some of the wisdom. Is the wisdom the right word? Some of the info that I've gathered over the years, and potentially help. The crossovers between what we do are very, very similar, aren't they? So let's see where we go.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love how honest you are on social media. So looking forward to getting some of that honesty out today.
Yeah, exactly.
For anyone that hasn't come across you before, who is Gav Gillibrand? What is the fat loss code? Tell us a bit about your journey.
Absolutely. Well, how far should we go back? I mean, I think what I'm doing is kind of come full circle, really. I knew as far back as the age of 14 or 15 that I wanted to be a personal trainer. And this is a true story. You know, when back in the day we did work experience, you know, you're coming up to your GCE level, GCSE, and they would send everyone else went out into the bank or the insurance company. And this is a true story. This is in 1988, 89. I just got into bodybuilding, late 80s, was obsessed with all the magazines, and I went to the local gym in Norwich, and I talk about this actually in quite a few times, but I remember seeing this guy in a leotard. Bearing in mind it was the late 80s and step aerobics had just arrived into the UK. I saw this guy in a leotard with a ponytail, and he had 30 women literally eating out of the palm of his hand. I remember thinking, that's who I want to be. Not the guy, not with the ponytail and not the leotard, but I remember just being obsessed with it. And the guy put me on the leg press. It was an ex-pro. I don't think he was pro. He was sort of semi-pro bodybuilder at the time. And we got talking about, the state of bodybuilding. And I was 15, 16 at the time. And I just remember loving the smell of the gym. And at the same time, Madonna was coming to London at the time, and she always had two really sort of burly bouncers running with her, and on the back they had personal trainer. So I remember thinking, wow, I could be a personal trainer to the stars. And that was the dream. That was at age 15, 16. Went to uni, did sports science, and then with the view to getting into personal training or some sort of fitness or nutrition on some level. But I had a bit of a slight career turn, and it's worth knowing because it brought me full circle. I auditioned for Blind Date in 1993, got on the show, and won.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So, but you know the famous comedian Ed Byrne, the Irish guy. Have you seen him with the long hair? He was one of the other guys of the three. And you're the same sort of age as me, Ross. So you'll know Blind Date back in the day was Saturday night primetime TV, wasn't it? You know, everyone was tuning into that. And I bullshitted my way on. I told them I was a stripper. This is a true story. And I'd seen an advert. This is way pre-internet, like early 90s. Seen an advert in the local paper looking for stripograms. I remember thinking, I could do that. I'm 18 years old. I'm in shape, full of my own importance. Very sort of, very outgoing, bit of a show off, really, looking back. I remember thinking I could do that. So but I hadn't actually done it. The auditions came up, and I was working as a fitness instructor in a local gym before going to uni to do sports science. I took a year out, AKA not getting the grades I needed. I needed a year off to suddenly become so much better in a year's time. You know, the usual story. Went for this audition. I thought, how can I guarantee that I get on the show? So I told them I was a stripogram, and they were all over me. Blagged my way through 3 auditions, went on the show, and it was aired 6 weeks before I got to uni, Freshers Week. And so obviously half the people had seen it. So obviously nearly all the girls hated me. The guys thought I was a real lad. But back to the story, in the meantime, I thought, well, why don't I just go and do it? So I started doing stripograms at the weekend. So all through uni, I was doing 3, 4, 5 jobs for like £100 a pop. So I wasn't a struggling student. I was quite wealthy as a student doing these stripograms, and it really distracted me. I remember thinking, I really want to get into like either be a PE teacher or a personal trainer. That was but the lure of the nightclubs and the entertainment really distracted me to the point where it came to dissertation, end of the 3 years, and a friend of mine who had started this with me the same sort of time said, we've got an 8-week tour of Belgium coming up. I said, I've got to get this dissertation done. He said, I need to know today. And I went, fuck it, and quit uni 2 weeks before my dissertation was due in. So I got a bog standard flat degree, no, not even a 2-1, not a 2-2, just a straight degree, because I was missing those dissertation. And I remember saying to the guy, I'll do it later, I'll come back and do it, knowing clearly I wouldn't. And that became, so in 95, from being in nutrition and fitness and personal training, I ended up becoming a full-time entertainer, if you will. And Ross, it was a full-time gig until 2010.
Wow.
Full-time. Like, it was this career that had started off as a bit of fun and money, became a full-time thing. We were all over Europe. We became one of the top troops in the country. And age 35, 2008, I thought I need to go start using my brain instead of using everything else. Otherwise, I'm just getting left behind. So it was 2008. I then came to London and got back into personal training, did my postgrad in sports nutrition. So it took a whole 95 to 2008, and I started getting back into it. And it was 2010 when I quit the limelight. 37 years old, didn't become famous, didn't make my millions from the stage, and only got back into what I'm doing now in full time. So I guess it's 14 years ago. But then since 2010 to 2014, it's been a mixture of one-to-one personal training, which it was until 2018, and then I moved the business pre-COVID. Fortunately, premonition maybe, but took it from one-to-one personal training in the city in London to the online coaching that I do now, that I've done full time for 6 years. So that was I guess that was the last 35 years into about 10 minutes. That wasn't the answer you were hoping for, or maybe expecting.
It wasn't the one that I was expecting, but I guess as that person traveling Europe in a troop, you must always have had so much scrutiny on what your body looked like. It was your profession.
That was it. And then a lot of the guys kind of did personal training on the side, because it was very, very similar. That you were being in shape, you're looking after nutrition. So I came up learning. I mean, this is pre-internet. The only knowledge we had about health and nutrition was from Flex magazine and Muscle and Fitness, or Muscle Mag, as it was in the late 80s and early 90s. So, which is true. A lot of the stuff still rings true, but a lot of it was the bro science, as we know. So that was my but still to this day, bodybuilding, as you know, is a very, very niche sport. But if there's any guys that know a lot about nutrition, some of them do, some of them don't know a huge amount and rely far too much on other things, and have got a coach. But still to the day, a lot of the stuff that I've learned was from the early bodybuilding mags in the late 80s and early 90s. And obviously then the internet came, and you could they have the forums, and obviously the world of nutrition is completely different to how it was in the late 90s. I mean, you had to go and get a book. Imagine that, and if you didn't see the book, you didn't know that you didn't learn, So, but I learned a lot of the stuff that I still put into practice today. In terms of my degree, I did actually learn quite a lot there about physiology. But it's weird. It started there, it went somewhere else, and it took a full sort of 15, 17 years to come back full time. So even as I am now in 2024, age 50, I'm actually doing exactly what I was meant to do, or was I meant to do it? That's the whole thing. What I intended to do, age 21, when I came out of uni. Funny, isn't it, how life goes?
Yeah. And what an interesting detour you took along the way. I can imagine there's lots of stories there.
Probably not best for the podcast. And the stories that I can't tell the grandchildren. At least maybe the young males that might come along, but definitely not the females. But yeah, I think I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, it was very hard to quit. That was the problem. I remember thinking this is going to be a couple of years, and then when I got to 30, I thought, okay, I've had enough. But I couldn't stop. It was too much. It was just great fun. And I went to, this was the eye opener. I went to a friend's wedding when I was 30, and they were all married with kids, and we're very successful, making a lot of money. And they'd seen what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And I was married at the time, no kids then, but they all hated their jobs.
Right.
And they said to me, and I remember we rocked up in, I think it was, I was driving a Ford Fiesta, or it might be what's the one up from the Fiesta, the Ford Fiesta, the level up from a Fiesta. Is it the Focus, the Ford Focus, something like that?
Yeah.
And I remember driving into the car park for this wedding, and there was a couple of friends who had Porsches. There was one guy with a Ferrari, and I remember thinking, I'm the least successful here financially. And I remember being a bit conscious and embarrassed that I'm going to have to tell them what I was doing. But it was au contraire. They were like, Gav, we've seen you. What have you been? You've been traveling all over Europe. Like, what? Tell us the stories. They were all wanting to hear. And I was like, oh, wow. And that was the first lesson. And it served me well that all is never what it seems. When it looks like someone has been super successful in life, financially, that's only one metric, isn't it? And again, no disrespect to those guys, but most of them were overweight. Most of them weren't looking after their health. And I was in my prime. I was peak physical fitness at 29, 30 years old, traveling all over Europe, mostly cash in hand. I mean, no real security, but I was enjoying life to the fullest. Yeah. And I remember walking away and said to my wife at the time, ex-wife now, I thought I was a little embarrassed to turn up, and I actually felt like I was in pole position. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, really interesting. I think even more now with social media, because people just put on what they want to see.
Yeah.
It's easy to think that people have got a perfect life, but of course you only see glimpses of the truth.
Yeah, I got a good sort of saying. I'm not sure if I heard it from someone or I believe it. I think there's almost like an inverse relationship for the amount of people, the people that shout the loudest on social media about how well they're doing, and how much money they're making and where they're traveling. I think, is that from, because people with real wealth don't need to shout about wealth, and people that are super successful, they might take a couple of pictures, but they're not posting, look at me in Dubai, they're just not. So I think, what are you trying to make up for? Is this really the true story, the full picture? Or are you trying to make up some inadequacies in life? And I think it's just Instagram and the likes has just amplified that. And it's amplified the narcissist, hasn't it? It's a narcissist paradise. And I think, sometimes you see those pictures and you think maybe they are super successful, super happy. But then there's always the part of me thinking, but are they? Because I know loads of people that on the outside look like they've got everything, yet on the inside they're not doing that well. You just don't know what's going on behind closed doors, do you? You literally haven't got a clue. But the constant need to tell others, I remember I missed the days. I mean, we're the same sort of age, but I actually missed the days of having a phone call with someone and finding out what they were up to. And now you can go 6 months to a year with not even speaking to anyone, yet you still know everything about their life. Like, remember back in the day where you'd have to go and get photos developed, and you would get 3 really good photos out of a pack of 90, and the rest would go in the bin, and someone would call up, how was your holiday? And you'd tell them about your holiday, and then you'd get on with your life. Now you see your best mate's holiday because he's posted all his pictures, and when you speak to them, you don't even know, how was your holiday? Yeah, it was good. And you already know the answer. Yeah. So I think we're kind of digressing, but we've got more information than ever before, but we're the least connected, aren't we?
Without a doubt. And you said something interesting about the guys at the wedding there, which was that their health they weren't the healthiest. And that's an interesting metric of success, isn't it? Because obviously you and I both share this feeling that it's the ultimate wealth. Because unless you're healthy, what else have you got? And
absolutely,
an analogy that you would trade everything. You could be the wealthiest person in the world, but you trade everything to get one more day of health.
Everything. I heard a really good quote. Do you know Peter Attia? Have you heard of Peter Attia, the longevity doctor? He's quite, he was on the Chris Williamson podcast, Modern Wisdom, and he said anytime you're feeling a little bit pissed off, you wake up wrong side of the bed, the day's not going well, you feel like you're not in your best mood, your health and your kids are annoying, take a snapshot of where you are, fast forward 20 years, and he said you would pay all the money and all the possessions right now to feel like you would at this age, as opposed to feeling where you're going to be in 20 years. And I haven't actually put it into practice, but I like the idea. Maybe I'm trying. Sometimes when somebody you just think, "Fuck, everything's not working, or it's just not going right." Okay, fast forward to 70 or 75. If I could then feel everything I've got at 50, as long as you're in reasonable health and taking care of yourself, or to see the kids as they are now, or to have the energy that I've got now, because obviously when you're 75, even if you were all the will in the world, there's going to be that natural decline, isn't there? That just is. And I thought that was a really good quote, something to think about, because you certainly don't think about it when you're 30, though. You never think you're going to be 50 when you're 30, do you? You're invincible. Yeah, you're invincible on all levels. And it's only since the last sort of 5 years for me that just getting out of bed, you just haven't got that energy as much. And I really take care of my health. So God knows how people are feeling when they don't look after themselves. I'm at the gym, and I know you are as well, taking care on all levels: nutrition, sleep, alcohol, supplements, everything. And some days I think, God, I just feel, I feel 50.
Yeah, it's harder than it was when we were 20.
Way harder. I was a great sleeper for 45 years of my life, and just the last few years, just not getting I just notice I'm just a bit more tired. Training's going well, but just the hips and back, the knees a bit tight, and also in my head I think I'm 25 years old still. So when someone says, "Do you want to go and play five-a-side?" my ego is like, yeah. I don't know, did you see my post the other day when I won the kids sports day? Did you see that? Funny story. So the kids are 6 and 3, and the sports day, and there was the youngest one first, and then went into to Gabriel, my son, the sports day, and all the dads were lined up, and one of the dads is an ex-GB marathon runner, as in professional marathon runner. I think he's done 2 hours 13, so he's excellent, but he's not like world class, but he's top 20, top 30 guy in the world type thing. I fancy my chances. I'm thinking, well, if he's long distance, I'm going to have him over 50 yards. Anyway, I haven't actually sprinted for 10 years. And I'm just, the last 3 or 4 years, I've had back issues, hip issues, and they're kind of over. But I thought, if I'm going to I said to Alex, I'm going to pull a muscle if I go for this. She goes, "Your daughter will be watching." Right, that was it. Ego kicked in. I thought, I'm going to win. I'm going to die trying, but I'm winning this sports event. If there was £1 million at the finish line, I couldn't have run any faster. Across the line, hamstring went, lower back went, groin went, 3 trips to the osteo, no gym for 2 weeks, but I won the race. I won. Yes, I won. And so the lesson is, I'm not going to be doing the sports day next year, with all the will in the world. But and apparently there's another 2 guys that did it in the next race after me as well. So the dad's egos go. Have you done the sports race, Ross? Have you done the sports day race?
Yeah, our kids don't have proper sports days anymore. It's one of those ones where they're not allowed to win. Everyone's a winner just for taking place, and the parents don't. I know. Another topic altogether, isn't it? That does not set people up for life. Everybody does not win in life. you have to try your hardest.
Absolutely. And this is the bit that gets me with what I do. I speak to a lot of men, in the late 40s, 50s, that have been, we talked about being successful financially, and they maybe come to me, maybe I'm talking a typical guy, late 40s, early 50s, 16, 17 stone, that probably should be 12 or 13 stone. So, good 3, 4, 5 stone overweight. And I know money is not an issue, yet they've just got this massive reluctance to fix the problem. I feel like grabbing them by the neck and say, look, going back to what we said, if you could transport yourself to 20 years, you would pay everything. And it's almost like they need a huge, dare I say it, and I obviously don't wish this on them, but it's almost like they need a massive health scare to kick them up the arse. I feel like saying, look, have your heart attack and then come back to me. Obviously, I don't want that to happen. But look, we need to address this now. Don't wait until, well, as you know, most heart attacks, there's no second chance. Yeah. Don't wait until something goes horribly wrong before you try and fix it. We can address this now. Yes, you've got weight to lose, but touch wood, you've got no other metabolic problems. Your blood pressure's okay. You're not on any drugs. Let's lose this weight now. And they're like, it's just not my priority. I'm like, you don't know what you're missing because they don't know what real health feels like, do they?
It's culturally acceptable. It's kind of your middle-aged guys. They'll like, just kind of laugh and joke that I'm bigger than I used to be, and I'm tireder, and I have to drink 10 coffees to get going, and 10 pints on the night time before I go to sleep. And it's just acceptable, and it's the rarity to be the opposite way. And a great way of sort of framing that is healthy food is seen as a diet. Like, I'm on a diet, I'm eating healthy. Well, that's not a diet, that's just food. But society has that down as a special thing. Normal is eating, high calorie, nutrient poor food. That's normal. And eating good, healthy, wholesome food is some sort of special diet. It's like the opposite around. It's peculiar.
I know. Yeah. I mean, and also the sort of the hardest thing with my job really is, one, getting people to bridge that gap. Let's say someone's there, they really need to work on their health, lose some weight. And because I know that if someone will come into a program like mine, and I'm not just the only guy that does this, but I know that if they come into the program, they're going to get great results, because we just do. Because it's very, very simple to lose weight. It's not always easy, but the mechanics behind it are extremely simple, as you know. Being a calorie deficit, so I teach the basics, but so bridging the gap is the hard thing. But once they're even in there, because so many people have tried so many things before and maybe failed, if maybe they've been given bad advice, or if someone's been overweight a long time, they've tried to lose weight and they come into this thing, I've tried everything, nothing works. They've got so many self-limiting beliefs before they even come into the program, they're almost setting themselves up for failure. So it's a mixture of, one, they don't believe it's going to work. 2, they don't believe they can make it work. And 3, even if they do get results, they always think they're going to go back to where they were. It's very hard to change someone's, I call it the default setting. If someone's been, especially, I use a classic example of a client I had a while back. His name was Big Ed. That's what he called himself. So his whole identity was around being Big Ed. 22 stone guy, down the pub, everyone knew him as Big Ed. So even though he was very uncomfortable being overweight, he was comfortable. I call it being comfortably uncomfortable. He was stuck there, his whole identity, everyone knew him as Big Ed. Every time he tried to lose weight, people said, I liked you when you were Big Ed. So almost that peer pressure was driving him back to a position that he didn't want to be in. And I've seen that happen many, many times, sometimes from the partner, husband or wife, peer group, especially if he was big into football, so it was big drinking culture. If he then suddenly lost sort of 5, 6, 7 stone and became Little Ed, he hasn't got that identity anymore. He's not that big jovial guy at the pub. So he didn't make any changes. And I see that happen all the time. So people can be driven back to a place where they don't want to be because of, so a lot of people coming into this sort of thing that I do with a lot of self-limiting beliefs, the belief that it's never going to work, and a mixture of all the bullshit, as you see in the nutrition world at the moment. There's so much rubbish out there. So many people that are doing well, got a podcast and a book, making lots of money, shouting loudly, but talking utter garbage and teaching people stuff that is just not true.
Yeah, and there's a lot, isn't there, at the moment? At the one end, you've got people saying, you know, you can eat certain foods that speed up fat loss, or it's totally genetic. It's not their fault. I always think,
get me started on that one. Right, let's go on the genetic. This is the classic, right? So obviously you know about Ozempic, of course you do. Okay, for the listeners that don't know, just literally curbs your appetite. It goes a lot more detail, but it curbs your appetite. So if hormones were responsible for weight gain, if they took Ozempic and it was hormones and insulin and cortisol that were causing them to gain weight, they wouldn't lose weight, would they? But if someone doesn't eat food, which is what Ozempic does, and Wegovy and all the likes, it curbs your appetite, massively curbs your appetite. Guess what? They're on 800 calories a day. They lose a shit ton of weight. So it blows their hormonal issues and genetic issues out the water. I've never met a person that reduces their food, not one, that reduces their food and burns a little bit more than they take in that can't lose weight. In 20 years, I've never met one. You know, there are a few cases that it will be very, very slow. Like I've worked with a couple of people that have got underactive thyroid glands or ladies going through menopause. It definitely slows things down. But the theory behind it, thermogenics, laws of physics, you can't overcome that. You know, I've had a couple of ladies that had to take their calories very, very low for it to get working. But guess what? It works every time, because if it doesn't, you're almost claiming immunity to starvation. Think about that. No, even if you starve me, I can't lose weight, which happens only 100% of the time, doesn't it? If you don't feed anyone for 1 month, well, in about 6 weeks, they die.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to lose weight. So Ozempic just massively curbs your appetite, slows the gastric emptying of the stomach, so you're full for hours. And the problem is with that is if you're only on 800 calories and you're forcing yourself to eat, the last thing you're going to do is eat protein. No one wants to gorge on a chicken breast, do they? So very often if protein's very, very low and they're not weight training, a lot of that weight's going to come from lean body mass, which is, as you know, is the kiss of death when it comes to that. However, if someone's 400 pounds, it's probably, it doesn't matter where that weight comes from. It's probably safer to get them 200 something as quickly as possible before they have a heart attack or, you know, have some real cardiovascular issues. So losing a bit of muscle mass is probably worth the hit, isn't it? But we see a lot of people in the bodybuilding world using it now to get shredded for competitions, you know. Anyway, it's gaining weight, losing weight is very, very simple. We need to get someone to a calorie deficit. Now, the nuances behind that, people think when I say that I say, well, just eat 2,000 calories, whatever. No, I'm not saying that. 80% or even 90% of all of my clients, but 90% of their diet is as healthy as we can possibly be. Good fats, quality proteins, controlled carbohydrates, some good sources. But that 10% we allow to go off piste, eat whatever the hell you want, because it's going to sustainability, keeps them sane, and they don't feel they're restricted. They don't have to eliminate anything, and they don't feel like they're on a diet. So if I can get someone to lose weight that they don't feel they're restricting anything, once they get that, they're like, hang on, you mean I could eat like this forever and still? So, because the problem with diets is the start date and an end date, isn't there? Which means, let's say someone's eating, to use the Americans, the standard American diet, just junk food. If they start this diet, whether it's keto or carnivore or low carb, there's a day that when they do it, which means there's going to be a day, unless they stay on it forever, there's going to be a day when they finish. So I say to people, carnivore is great if you're going to stay on carnivore for the rest of your life. Keto works if you're going to not eat carbs for the rest of your life. How about having an approach where you can have a little bit of everything, still lose the weight, go to social events, still eat like a normal human being when you're on holiday, when you're traveling, same food as your kids, and still get the same metabolic outcome and weight loss? Surely that seems like a much better proposition. I mean, keto, carnivore, they're great, but they're no better or worse than anything else. But you've got to either stay there, or you're going to, as soon as you come off that diet, you're going to put the weight back on again because you're back to normal. So I get into a lot of beef with the carnivore and the keto crew online. They're like, so their way is the best way. And I'm like, you're just getting just as bad as vegans. You're a zealot.
I was going to say exactly.
Apologies to all vegans. Nothing against vegans. Yeah.
I was going to say exactly the same there. That it doesn't. You've got some people carnivore, vegans on the other end, and what they both agree on is whole organic food makes them feel better. And for some people, do you know what? We're all bio-individual. All 8 billion of us on the planet look different. Our insides are different too. There's probably some that are skewed to feel amazing on carnivore, and some will feel great on vegan. But 80% of the population are probably going to be somewhere in the middle. And having that sensible kind of grown-up approach where you're eating good, wholesome food, occasionally doing whatever life throws at you, I think is more sustainable.
Yeah. The problem now is, you've got a lot of people in very prominent positions in, I wouldn't say in nutrition, but in social media, that are telling people that fruit is bad for people and vegetables are bad for people and fruit's making people fat. I'm not going to mention his name, but I always take the piss out of him on social media, who's making a lot of money out of very unsuspecting people. And he's got the average person afraid to, eat like an apple or a banana for fear that their pancreas is going to drop out their arse or something. It's madness. It's madness. Like sugar itself, we all know that sugar is great energy source, but it's devoid of any nutrients. Anyone that in nutrition knows this. So is it wise to eat sugar all day long? Obviously not. We're not getting any nutrients. There's better sources of carbohydrates. But to tell someone that they're going to get type 2 diabetes if they eat one bit of sugar, or if they have a donut, you're going to get cancer, or, it's just ludicrous. And you've got people that know nothing about social media. Like someone told me, can't think of the actual person who told me this, that it's not knowledge that people respect, it's social media presence. If you've got 1,000 followers or someone's got 100,000, even if you're talking the truth, more people are going to believe the person with 100,000 followers than an expert with 1,000 followers. And isn't that a really sad place to be in? Yeah. So the popularity is drowning out expertise. And if you shout loud and swear enough and come across in the right message and get clicks and real views, your sort of level of expertise to the average person goes through the roof, and you can sell a product. It's a terrible place we're in at the moment. And the social media is obviously the wealth of knowledge and our fingertips. I mean, there's a lot of great things you can find out. I mean, some amazing podcasts and people that are spouting great knowledge, but then there's so much rubbish out there. And the average person, how do they discern who to listen to? And they clearly can't. They clearly can't. If someone's popular and they've got the loudest voice, people are following people. And they've got the average person scared of a simple nutrient that is not to be scared from. My always argument, if sugar made everyone fat, pretty much every professional athlete would be obese. So their argument is, obviously sugar, as we know, will increase blood sugar. Insulin is released by the pancreas, and insulin is a fat storage hormone, as you know. But that's not how it works, because professional cyclist is ingesting, I think it's about 80 grams of simple sugars per hour in a 12-hour race, and they're doing that for 2 weeks straight, right? Yet they're skin and bone. Why? Because they're burning the calories. Simple as that. And they go, oh yeah, but so that argument goes out the window. I said, what about pretty much, apart from obviously this school of thought that certainly long distance athletes can become fat adapted, there's some good research around that, isn't there? And I truly believe that fat is a fantastic source of energy. But for the vast majority of sports, certainly, short, sharp sports. We don't see the professional tennis players snacking on little tubs of lard and oil in between sets on a 5-set marathon Wimbledon final. They're having banana, Gatorade, simple sugars to get their energy. Yet there's no body fat on them because they're burning it off. And this is my argument with people when they say that, their calories in, calories out doesn't work, and it's the insulin carb model, which has just been debunked ad nauseum. Like it's just a joke. It's almost a joke as the flat Earth. We could talk about flat Earth if you want. I'm not a flat earther, or a flatard as I like to call them. Unless you tell me you're a flat earther, are you, Ross? I assume you're not.
No, I'm definitely not. It does seem to be gaining popularity, though. I've seen more and more people.
It's huge. It's huge again. It's come round again. I mean, it was huge 500 years ago, wasn't it? Until scientists worked out that, I've got a friend. He was in fitness. He owned a gym in London, actually. And I can't remember who discovered. If you when the sun is at the highest at midday, if you put a stick on the ground, you can measure the length of the shadow. And if you put a stick 20 miles away, you can see a different length of the shadow. So they can then tell from that that the Earth was curved. That's how they worked out. It was something like that. And when I said that to him, he's always saying, "Show me proof of a globe. Show me the proof." I'm like, apart from all the other proofs, what about the stick experiment? And he just rolled his eyes and went, "Not that old stick experiment." I went, "What do you mean the stick experiment that is basically, being the start of all aerodynamics and navigation around the world and how we fly and time zones and the fact that the Japanese have got a satellite that takes a picture of the Earth every minute. Have you seen the rotation of the Japanese have got this satellite that's something like 24 miles or 240 miles above the Earth, constantly taking pictures. And when you show this to him, he goes, "It's fake." I'm like, "What do you mean it's fake?" I say, so the Japanese are in on it, the Chinese are in it, the Russians, all the US, every space agency across the world is in on the conspiracy. It turns out it'd be about 3.5 million people that are in on it, and there's no whistleblowers that suddenly come out and say it's fake. So you just can't argue. You can't argue with people like that. Someone said this would be like playing chess with a pigeon. They would just shit on the board and knock all the pieces over. You can't argue with someone like that if everyone says it's just fake.
Yeah, it's a good answer though. Like that's the end of the conversation.
That's the end of the conversation. Like that, they just go, "Show me the proof," and then they talk about the edge and the ice wall, don't they? We go, "Well, show me the proof of that," and they go, "Well, no one's been able to take photographs over Antarctica." It's a murky world out there.
Yeah,
it's huge.
One of my friends just climbed Mount Vincent on Antarctica, which is the highest mountain in Antarctica, and I'm planning on doing that in a couple of years as well. So I'm not quite sure where that is then.
No, exactly. What mountains has he climbed?
So he's doing the 7 summits, which is what I want to do.
Oh, he's done the 7 summits. Oh, wow. Yeah, I've climbed Mont Blanc. We did Mont Blanc back in 2012.
I'm doing that in September.
What's he done then? Which ones has he done? Has he done the 7 summits, or he's about to do it?
He's just got one to go. So I met him on Aconcagua a couple of years ago in Argentina. He's just done Denali a couple of weeks ago.
Denali's meant to be brutal, isn't it?
Yeah. But he did Vincent a couple of months before that. The only one he's got still to do is the Castres Pyramid in Australia. Right. Indonesia it is. So yeah, he's got one more to do, and then he's all done. He was the fastest ever ascender of Everest. Went with a company called Burtenbach. They're an Austrian company. He slept in a tent, a pressurized tent, for about 4 months before he went, so he was already acclimatized.
So he was like acclimatized, yeah.
And then instead of having the normal oxygen that just drip feeds you like a 0.05% of oxygen, he had this like space age thing on, gave him 5% oxygen, and he just marched to the top. Did it in 16 days, up and down. Because
it's about 2.5-3 months normally, isn't it? Because you've got to go up base, camp base 1, back down again for a couple of weeks, then stage 2, stage 3, and up. And so I thought I've watched all the documentaries. I love the climbing, but yeah, I actually fancied doing it at one point, but it's best part of 50 grand, isn't it? Really.
I do as well, but my wife's vetoed me doing 2 things in life. One of them is climbing Everest, and the other one is learning how to skydive. But I'm hoping she changes her mind.
Have you done the skydive?
Done 2, but they were tandem ones, and I absolutely loved it. And I was like, right, I want to learn how to do it myself. And she was like, no, you're not allowed.
Well, I did learn. I did a tandem in 2001, 2002. With my wife at the time, and she said, we're going to go and learn, and I'm scared of flying and hate heights, and I was like, really, are we going to do it? We did it. She quit after about in the middle of her AFF learning. I went on and did I think it was 75 jumps, had my own parachute, everything, but I had to quit because I kept getting a back injury. It kept giving me like a really bad whiplash. My positioning wasn't good, so every time the chute opened, I would do 3 or 4 jumps over a weekend and I'd be crippled. So I kept seeing the chiropractor, osteo, and it turns out I had my sort of lumbar spine up to my thoracic spine is completely straight. There's no natural curve in it at all. So I remember even when we were sort of practicing, arching, it was very uncomfortable to sort of do like a hyperextension. I remember just being not suited to that. And obviously, you imagine you're scared up there as well, aren't you, jumping out? And the irony is you've got to be very relaxed when you jump out of the plane. So my nickname was the Sky Plank. Because imagine if you threw a plank of wood out, I'd be just doing this on the way down, because I was literally locks, and you're meant to be able to drop your hips and literally sink into this position, and you're there. And I literally white knuckled my way through 75 jumps. It was amazing. Like I look back and
it's an exhilarating feeling for sure. But we've probably gone slightly off the topic, so let's come back to health and
yeah, we have. Yeah, I know. Sorry, you get me talking, mate. It's a strong coffee I had before we started. Sorry, mate.
Imagine I'm coming to you for the first time. So I'm nearly 47 and I'm say 17 stone and I want to get fit. What was your approach? What's the first thing that you do? What do you try and change first? And how would you help us set goals?
Absolutely. The first simple change that will start to get some sort of tangible results very, very quickly. We have to know the input, what someone's eating on a daily basis. And I've never had anyone come into my program, I say not everyone, but very few people come into the program who actually have a clue the value of calories. And I use the example of, 6-year-old son, if I give him a £5 note, he knows that it's money, but he's got no value of that in the real market. He thinks he could buy a car, or he thinks I'm saving up to buy a Ferrari, so he doesn't know the value of money. And most people have got no clue what they're consuming. So how the hell are they going to try and lose weight if it's like trying to save money, but having no record of money coming into your account or going out of your account. So I say to people, if I said save 10 grand, but the caveat is I'm not going to tell you when or how much you're going to get paid, or when or how much your mortgage, car payments, insurances are going to leave your account. How quickly could you save 10K? And they go, it'd be impossible. I said, well, that's effectively what people do when they go on a diet. I said, so the first thing we have to do is we get them to teach them how to track their calories. And very quickly they'll realize I'm probably consuming 4,000 calories a day. And maybe they might only need 2.5 calories. So they're in this massive surplus to start with. So very quickly we can do that on MyFitnessPal on their phone within a few days. So the first thing was we'd find out what they're doing, but then obviously we would look at other stuff. Movement's very important as well. A lot of these guys, I spoke to someone yesterday. I said, give me a bad week and a good week in terms of movement. And he said, they're all bad weeks. As in, I don't do anything. I get up, I work from home, I'm on the computer, and he goes, I don't even walk the dog. So he's doing less than 1,500 steps a day, and half of them are to the fridge, to the toilet. So the simplest thing that we can do is as long as someone can walk, I said, can you go for a 15-minute walk? And no one's ever said they can't do that. Even someone that's 25 stone can go for a 15-minute stroll. You know, at the end of the week, they said, well, actually, you did 30 minutes 5 times a week. That alone is enough to see some benefits, because they're going to be burning, although very small amount of calories. They're also getting some oxygen into their blood. They may be putting a podcast on. I tell them to listen to something they're going to learn. So maybe their mood, their you know, a lot of people that have come to me with weight issues, they're often, not always, but often the self-esteem's taken a hit. Their confidence is very low. Some of them are bordering on depression. Some of them have full-on depression. So just by going to a simple walk and getting some sunlight, I mean, we're in the UK, but whenever we can get a bit of sunlight and some fresh air, as you know, Ross, can do wonders for someone's mental health. So that alone is so we don't need to make radical changes. 15 to 30-minute walk every day. Can you do that? I've never had anyone say they can't. Have you got a dog? Yeah. How many times do you walk it? Twice a week. Could you walk it every day? The dog's happy as well. So everyone's a winner, right? Yeah. Track your calories for a week. Let's just see what you're doing. So this is, you know, the bottom line. Some people will go straight into other things straight away. Track your calories. Let's see what you're doing. Okay, you're eating 3,000 calories a day. Could we add some protein to your breakfast and control the calories? And very quickly, if someone drops 1,000 calories on average a day over a week, they're going to lose 2 or 3 pounds. And most of my guys that have not lost anything for years, or, you know, maybe they've lost 10 kilos, then put it back on again, at the constant yo-yo, they're like, hang on, I just kept an eye on what I was eating and I've lost 3 pounds. How does that work? I said, because we're simply burning a little bit more than you were taking in. And very, very quickly, and I've had people that have joined the program and we've done nothing more than track their calories, told them to increase their protein and go for a walk. I've got an example, actually, I can tell you. I've got a 60-year-old lawyer in Toronto. He won't mind me telling you the story because his testimony is on the website. He said he went between 280 pounds to 230, and he'd never been below 230 pounds his whole adult life. When he was gorging, he was 280. When he was being good, he was 230, and he was stuck. Came to me at 230. He said, Gav, I hate exercise. I love food. I said, well, you sound like most of my clients, so you're in the right place. We give them a calorie budget. Let's say it was 2,000 calories. There's your budget for the day, which gives you a 14,000 calorie budget for the week. Doesn't matter what you do day to day. If you go over one day, pull it back the next day, but come under budget at the end of the week. Can you go for a walk 3 times a week? And he said, yes. By the end of the 4th week, he was doing half an hour every day, 5 days a week on his lunch break. We did 16 weeks. All he did was control his calories, increase his protein to 100 grams a day, and walk. And he lost 37 pounds in 16 weeks. And we didn't have to change anything. I didn't even look at anything. Because if we get it right, you know, even if someone's sleeping well, if they're hydrated, if they're reducing stress, if they're controlling alcohol, as you know, this is very, very similar to what you're helping guys with. They all massively help. But ultimately, if you're in a surplus, doesn't matter how good everything else is, you're not going to lose weight. Like, those things will optimize everything, right? Control stress, reduce alcohol, boost testosterone. They're going to optimize the job. But literally, we controlled his calories, got him into a deficit. He walked 5 times a week, 37 pounds. And he said, Gav, how the hell have we done this? I said, it's very, very simple. So to go back to your question, I know we've kind of gone on. The first thing we would look at is, what are you eating? Show me what you're eating. Where can we make the simplest of changes? You know, for nearly everyone, in fact, everyone, we would increase their protein. You know, yeah. I've as you know, you don't accidentally eat 150 grams of protein a day. You have to go out your way to get that. And particularly for the ladies, they really struggle with that. The hardest part of this is the guys are saying, oh, I'm struggling to get over 100 grams. But once you know how, you know, maybe with a protein shake, a decent one, and the right ways we can get that up. So protein we would look at, but more importantly, for someone that's really struggled with their weight, we would look at total calories. Protein is a secondary product, a byproduct of that, but total calories, and get them literally moving, walking. And that's enough to get the fat loss journey started. Yeah, absolutely. It's enough. It's all, and I almost feel bad for taking someone into the program, because it's almost like a half an hour phone call can radically change the next 12 weeks. And Sam, to his credit, he's now 189 pounds, and we'll never put that weight back on again. And he says, Gav, you literally have changed my life. He goes, I can't believe I used to wait until 60, and he just retired. He retired in the middle of our program. So he went off on this European vacation trip. Vacation, I speak to too many Americans. Holiday for like 3 months, came back, same weight as he went. And he goes, I don't know how I've done this. So the smallest changes in what we do can have massive implications, but you have to understand how that works. And so many people, I think, are majoring in the minor. They're looking at this fancy gym program or fancy kit or the best trainers, or they want to follow the crazy diet, or like, what's the secret? Control your bloody calories, increase your protein, increase your daily step count or your movement. Even your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Just walk the dog, play with the kids, clean the garden. That alone can change everything. Then we'll start to add the gym in, look at sleep, how to optimize, resistance training, things like that. So that's what we do.
Eat better, move more.
It really comes down, control calories, move more, eat better, move more, as part of that, but here's the interesting thing. You could radically improve the quality of someone's diet and they'd be healthier, but they wouldn't necessarily lose weight if they're in a surplus. And this is the argument, and again, people then say, well, you're telling people to eat shit, but be in a deficit. I'm not saying that. And I often pose the question, a Big Mac, portion of fries, and a large Coke, full fat Coke, is about 1,500 calories. But if you needed 2,000 calories a day, if that was your BMR, or that was the weight, the amount of calories you needed per day to not gain weight or lose weight, and that's about what I eat. I eat about 2,000, 2,200, and that keeps me fairly stable at 80 kilos. If I ate 1,500 calories purely from the Big Mac meal, I pose it to people, would I lose weight? Now, 50% of the people on social media will say I would get fat. And the other people understand thermogenics. How can I get fat if the energy's not there?
Yeah.
And so then people then say, well, you're telling people to eat at McDonald's. No, I'm not saying that. But if we know that science is true, that allows me, within my 2,000, if I've had 1,700 to cliched healthy meal, chicken, rice and broccoli, obviously that's not what everyone's eating every day, but let's say I had 4 meals of chicken, rice and broccoli every day, 1,700 calories, and I've got 500 I can play with, I could have a burger, I could have an ice lolly or an ice cream or a sandwich with a load of rubbish on, and I'm still going to lose weight or not gain weight because I've got my calories right. And people still can't understand that. Yeah, it's really tricky.
What type of exercise do you advocate? Is there a particular form? Do you tell everyone to go to the gym? Is it stuff at home? Do you need to get everyone to go running, or is everybody different?
Yeah, great question. What I found, we all know that weight training is probably one of the best things most people can do. However, if someone doesn't like weight training, if I told them that the only way they could lose weight or gain muscle is going weight training 3 times a day, and someone hates weight training, are they going to do that, or are they going to stick to something they enjoy? So sustainability is the key, and enjoyment, because if you don't enjoy it and you can't do it regularly, you're not going to do it. So I can say what I believe to be the best, but that's the best for someone that likes that activity, right? So if you hate jogging, guess what's not going to be in a program? If you love jogging, guess what's going to be in your program? So someone comes to me and says, I love jogging 3 times a week. I just love it. It's great for my head. It burns calories. Guess what I want you to do? We're going to go jog, but we're going to optimize that jog into a run, maybe some sprints. But if you hate jogging and it hurts your knees, we're going to do something that doesn't hurt your knees and that you enjoy. So, look, we know cardio, 2 types, zone 2, low intensity great for longevity. We also want to get the heart rate up there, stress the VO2 max, the maximum rate of oxygen. So for longevity and athletic purposes, everyone should be weight training, muscle strength, bone density, and the stuff that we do in our 40s and 50s is going to determine how long and how well we live in our 70s and 80s. So I've got every one of my clients at the moment is doing weight training, but I would say at least 5 or 6 I'm currently working with weren't weight training when they joined the program. And it maybe took us 5 or 6 weeks before we started that, because I wanted them to get walking, moving, lose 10, 15 pounds, trust the process, trust me. Now I think we should start adding some sort of resistance training in. So absolutely, we want to get strong. We want to build a little bit of muscle for guys and girls. And when I say muscle, I don't mean like everyone thinks I'm going to look like Arnie when I do weight training. Look, I've been trying to look like Arnie for 40 years. It doesn't happen, does it? Like, people have got this misconception. They lift weights, they're going to suddenly build this muscle. It's hard to build lean body mass. But we want to get everyone strong. We want to get them, because then the weight they lose, if someone loses 30 pounds in a 12-week period, if they're not weight training, at least probably a third of that is going to be muscle mass. Maybe not as much as that, but if someone slashes their calories and they're just walking, there's going to be a good percentage of that is going to be lean body mass. But again, if someone was 20 stone, is that a concern? Probably not. If someone was 10 stone and they lost half a stone of muscle, that's not a good thing. So we want to get weight training in there as early as possible to preserve muscle mass.
Yeah, I love that. I think everyone should take that seriously as part of their exercise. We know that the muscle is the largest organ in the body and has the highest correlation to health span.
Absolutely.
In our 50s and 60s, so we should be doing that when we're younger. But it comes back to what you said earlier, which is we think we're invincible when we're in our 20s and 30s, and we don't think about that.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. But look, I'll push it hard. I mean, if someone is adamantly they don't want to do it, I can't force someone to do weight training. But for the ladies I've got working, I predominantly work with men. I kind of advertise for men, but often ladies will come, do you work with ladies? Yeah, I do. And you can come into the program. Especially ladies that are in their 40s and 50s, if they've never weight trained, the quicker we can start that, because I'm not sure of the actual numbers, but literally the stats, if someone's in their 70s and they to have a fall and break their hip, the drop-off rate from breaking the hip to death within the first year is absolutely shocking. And I'm sure you know this, Ross. It literally, they go off a cliff, don't they? Like, it's the kiss of death. If someone's been weight training for 20 years, one, they might not even fall because they've got that strength and stability. And if they do, they just bruise their hip, right? But if a woman at 75 has never weight trained and she goes and takes a tumble, that hip is going and it leads to a whole host of problems and it goes downhill rapidly. So I don't scare people, but I stress the importance to look, forget just the short term, this 12 weeks or the 6 months that we're doing together. Do you want to be wiping your own arse when you're 80? I say that to them all. And guess what? Not one person has said, no, I don't want to be doing that. Funny. We all want to be doing that. We all want to walk to the newsagents and buy a pint of milk, don't we? Or we don't want to be in a chair or get someone else cleaning and washing us. Okay, if you want that when you're 80 and you're 50 now, we need to work back. People have got it. I got this again from Peter Attia. He said, rather than looking ahead, we need to imagine you were 80 and work back. So I'm 80 years old now. What do I want to be doing? I would love to bend down and pick up the grandkids if they're around. I want to go to the toilet myself. I want to shower myself, get into the bath on my own. All these things. Okay, well, what are you doing now in your 40s and 50s? Because if you can't do a press up now, I can tell you right now, you ain't picking up a grandchild at 80 years old. If you can't do a chin up, like there's some men that can't do a chin up. If you ain't doing a chin up, if you fall, you're going to break your hip. It's going to be game over. And people don't realize. So he said work backwards, and he's got a list. I should probably pull up the list. It was a great podcast. And he said he's got a chart of about 20 things through 40s, 50s, and 60s. So say for an average 50-year-old, it might be a farmer's walk, 50-meter farmer's walk with body weight. or, which is quite a lot actually, isn't it? 75, 80 kilos. But he would regularly test his clients and patients through these different metrics. And so, well, if you can't do that at age 50, are you in the top 10 percentile or are you in the 50th percentile? Because what you do now is going to relate to how long you live and how well you live. So, and it's only in the last sort of couple of years, and certainly as I hit 50, that longevity piece has really struck home to me, because I've got a 6 and a 3-year-old. I'm thinking, well, if I make it to 80, she's only going to be 33. And, if I want the best part of her life, or the best part of, our lives together, I have to be on the ball, which means looking at what I do now. I can't wait till the good thing is I haven't waited. I've been doing this all my life. So that's not going to happen to me. And I look at my parents now who are 80 and they're in terrible health, terrible. And it's just not where I'm going to be. I know that, so it's important stuff, isn't it? Important stuff.
One of the most profound things that was said to me, it was on this podcast many, many moons ago now. Dr. Andrew Wingate said, if you want to be good at 80, you can't afford to be mediocre at 50. And I was like, wow.
That's true. Absolutely true, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a really, really powerful statement. So since then, I've kind of upped my game a little bit.
Well, everything I do now is where, if I think back, certainly with my chosen profession before I got back into fitness full time, was about having a 6-pack. Everything was about being in shape in the gym. I didn't warm up, didn't do any stretching. It was about, abs and chest and biceps. It was looking good as, and since the last 5 years, every workout I go in now, obviously I'm still working hard, but I get my zone 2 done. I get my 150 minutes a week, walking every day, 3 intense cardio sessions, 2 or 3 weight training sessions. Although I'm getting really great results, I've cut back from doing 3 times a week to twice a week now. And I'm recovering really well. And also because I'm that 1 session short, I'm desperate to get back into the weights. So I'm hitting it that much harder. So what I'm doing is I do upper body on a Tuesday and legs on a Friday, but I can literally put everything into it. Like 1 hour, balls to the wall. I saw it for a couple of days, but then come Friday, I'm ready for legs. And then I've got a whole weekend to recover before I even hit upper body on Tuesday. And I put a little bit of muscle on doing that. Recovery better. I just feel, rather than going in and doing a 3rd and 4th session where I might not have that recovery. And so every workout I do, I'm thinking, is this going to serve me in 30 years? So I'm putting everything into it, not to look as good, although I like looking good. I'm not interested in my abs. Often I'll, certainly in the winter, I'll have a hoodie on. I don't care. I'm not in the mirror like I used to be. Now I'm thinking, is this going to keep me alive longer? And am I going to be able to wipe my own ass when I'm 80? I'm like stretching, mobility, cardio, zone 2, VO2 max, and lifting heavy weights as often as possible, twice a week. So it's weird how my whole focus has shifted, because I'm worried about, not worried, but I'm conscious of, I ain't going to be here. There's going to be a time where it's just, we're not going to be here. It's sad when you think about it, but at the same time, it's given me a real sort of, now I've got a reason to be in shape. I've always loved it, but now my reason of being in shape is solely around being alive as long as possible in the best of health. And that's why I'm very passionate about helping people short-term lose weight. But the first conversation I have with someone is, what do you want to be doing when you're 80? And it really should, they go, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, okay, because that's what we're working on. This is 12 weeks that we're going to do, but this is skills that we're going to learn, because I'm assuming you want to lose 30 pounds and not put it back on. And again, no one's ever said, yeah, I want to put it back on. Okay, so the skills we're going to learn in this first 3 months, you're going to take forward for the next 30, 40, 50 years, depending on how old someone is. And then they're like, oh, really? You're actually thinking about where I'm going to be when I'm 80? I said, are you not? I mean, the 50-year-olds are, the 30-year-olds aren't, But,
yeah. It's quite empowering, isn't it, to think,
yeah,
my own death.
There's a reason to get in there now. So I got up at 5:30 this morning. I do that a couple of times a week, do cardio. I don't like to do it quite so early, but with a schedule today, I had to. I really could have hit my, I've got a Fitbit with a silent alarm so I could nip out. I thought I could just go back to bed, but I thought I ain't going to get the cardio done today. And I had 40 minutes on the bike with some mobility and stretching planned. If I don't go, I'm going to get to the end of the day thinking, I wish I'd gone to the gym at 5:30 this morning. Once I got there, had a bit pre-workout back at 7:15 for the kids. Job done. Pleased.
Yeah, ready to start the day. Well, I feel like we could probably chat forever, but I'm sure you.
We probably, mate. You weren't expecting me to talk as much as I do. I'm sorry, I go off on one. I get a bit of caffeine inside me. I get a little excited, and I could talk about this stuff all day long. We'll have to do another repeat if you enjoy it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. But how do people reach out to you? So if they've watched this and like, do you know what? I love everything about Gav. I want to work with him. How do they do that?
Well, I guess there's 3 ways. Let me just quickly grab a copy. I'll show you. Sorry to come off camera. I would love it if they want to pick up my book, The GHD Method. Released that 2019. Sold about 2,000 copies. That really kind of is my method of what I do. That's a great way. Or gavgillibrand.com is probably the best way in terms of my website. But most of my social media activity is on LinkedIn. It's a powerhouse for me, if I'm completely honest. I enjoy it, a great community, but I guess that's my biggest social media presence. I use TikTok and Instagram, same name, Gav Gillibrand, but in fact, all of the stuff that I post online will go on LinkedIn. Even some of the risque stuff that I occasionally get banned for. I've been banned 3 times for. The annoying thing is you can swear in a video, but if you swear in the comments, they block you and ban you. It's nuts, isn't it? I put as a friend of mine who I engage with pretty much every day. He always takes a picture of himself with his cat in his arm, like a Bond villain stroking his cat. And I made a comment. I said, "Nice pussy," smiley face, 4-day ban.
Wow.
And I had to write a groveling letter to come back on. They said, "This is the 3rd time you've been banned. We're thinking of kicking you off the platform." I honestly, that would actually cause me a lot of problems in terms of business, because I would say that 90% of my business is from LinkedIn. I had to write this groveling letter saying I would never apologize. And now every time I go to type something, I'm thinking, okay, it's funny, but is the algorithm the AI just picks up? The censoring is unreal. So I just now, delete. Do I want to post that? No, but let me delete that. Or put a star instead of the letter just to block it out. I mean, it's gone crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
gone crazy.
The world definitely has. But Gav, thanks for sharing all of your knowledge. And speak to
hopefully you've got some stuff about. I mean, I've talked a lot about things, but you sound very passionate about this. But thanks for having me on, Ross. Appreciate it.
Love it. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, man.